And the Suns, Cara, you broke the story, led the agenda on this, and it was a brutal and ruthless decision from the Suns, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Gil McLachlan was fascinating on this on the weekend. His comments almost reaffirmed where the AFL sat.
They've made a decision that feels like a club that's decided to grow up, in my view. As a new chairman who's made a very difficult decision, and these things play out publicly, and I feel for Stuart Dew and his family. I know that's tough, but this is a decision for the football club that says we're playing finals. We haven't played. There's Stuart been a coach nearly 6 years, and they're making a hard-edge football decision that feels like they're growing up personally.
A very strong statement from the outgoing CEO who, look, there was definitely a level of frustration last year, I think, when they didn't land Alistair Clarkson. Whether that would have been right, we can debate now, but at the time it seemed like a great idea, and there is no doubt Gil McLachlan had held talks with the Clarkson camp about that move. And I've still got no doubt that Gil McLachlan wanted an experienced, probably a proven premiership coach at that footy club, and that's what they're going to get when they get Damien Hardwick.
You're certain it's him?
Oh, nothing's certain until it happens, but I believe, and I said this 2 weeks ago, it'll be Damien Hardwick.
So,
yep,
Cara,
it will be.
I asked you on the night when Hardwick left Richmond, or around that week, that has he left to give himself a 4-month break and potentially coach the Gold Coast Suns, and you didn't think that was been the case at the time?
And I said I can't believe he'd be that cynical.
Yeah.
I think he left, number one, because he knew his message wasn't getting through, and we'll talk about that in a moment, and we've heard a bit of that from the Richmond players as well. He was getting increasingly frustrated, and he just knew it was time to go. I also believe that he wanted to coach again. He knew he'd coach again, and he probably wanted to coach again next year.
Do you believe the Suns had spoken to him while he was still the coach of the Richmond Football Club?
No, I don't believe that, but
The AFL?
I'm sure the Suns, well, I don't know who they've spoken to. Have they spoken to his manager, Paul Connors? I'll never be able to prove that, and everyone says not. That's all I can say. And it does seem very neat. And when Tom Morris broke the story initially of Damien Hardwick going, that was a very difficult week, as we said on Footy Classified, for Stuart Dew, who immediately knew, I think, that the writing might have been on the wall. And I think my understanding is that one of the reasons Tom Morris got that story was because he got it from the Gold Coast. Now, so everything's heading up.
Take it on face value that Damien is in the frame. If you say he's, I don't doubt that for a minute. The wild card is Ken Hinkley still at the Suns, and I just got to thinking about the tenure of Ken Hinkley at Port and the decision that's in front of him. So there's 3 jobs available right now. Port, we think, are going to give him 2 years and 2 years only, right? If the offer is 2, he takes that. If Richmond or the Gold Coast were keen on him at 3 years, I still think he takes Port Adelaide at 2. Fairly big hypotheticals. But the carrot that can be dangled from both clubs, if they thought he was the guy, and I'm not saying he is because I accept you on Hardwick, but Richmond, at 4 years, he'd take Richmond over Port at 2, I think. And at 5 years, he'd have to take the Suns. Probably 4 to 5 is what the Suns would need to be if they miss on Hardwick. If Hardwick, for whatever reason, decides he doesn't want to take the Gold Coast job, and let's assume he does.
What if he's a better fit than Hardwick?
Well, I'll ask you about that.
Which is my
if
point.
If they're back to back on a wall right now, who are you taking?
Well, of course, Hardwick's resume is better with the 3 premierships, but the way Ken is coaching and the hunger that he's got, Caro, and this was my thoughts when Damien Hardwick stepped away, that a year out would be a better look for him. I think it's a terrible look to quit Richmond after trading away your draft picks, saying that you're mentally burnt out. 2 weeks later, going on a podcast saying
that was an all-club decision.
Then going away,
that's not right.
and then coming back to take your mate's job.
It's a Brendan Gale making that decision.
Why did they
just
extend him and go all in with this list? So to answer your question,
why did they extend Damien Hardwick?
When they did. Till 2024 and trade away their picks.
After he'd won 3 flags in 4 years.
And that
they
lasted
still
9
believe
games.
they're in the window. They still believe they're in the window. And you're also assuming something else. Ken Hinkley's staying at Port Adelaide.
Even if it's 2 versus 5.
But the tenure becomes a thing. Like, he would want 3 years now from here, wouldn't he?
I think the Suns would be... Would that be responsible to offer someone, Ken Hinkley, 5 years?
I think from
as good as he is, he's not a proven premiership coach.
They've gone through McKenna, Dew. Like, they've got to do something, the Suns.
And I guess
it's Damien Hardwick. It's Damien Hardwick, and Ken Hinkley stays at Port Adelaide.
And do you think Richmond will go a first-time coach?
I'm beginning to think they might, but I don't know. I don't know for certain. I mean, you spoke about Justin Leppich last week. Ken Hinkley, ironically, it was Hardwick-Hinkley Hardwick by a nose when he got the job at Richmond all those years ago. I don't think I don't think Ken Hinkley is leaving Port Adelaide. I know he's not leaving Port Adelaide.
Port, an aberration or something to worry about?
No, it's been such an impressive year. I've loved the ride, I've loved the journey, but there's a long way to go. There's 6 weeks to go, and I think this is a real challenge for them. The next 4 weeks, we're going to find out a lot about them, because right now their depth has been tested, and we saw that on the weekend with 7 changes, and those that came in probably aren't up to AFL football, and that was highlighted against the Blues. So there's the ones that went out. Not sure many are coming back. Not sure Dixon is ready. McKenzie sore. Butters is sore. Horn Francis is sore. So, and Lysett has got his...
They don't have Collingwood's depth or Brisbane's.
Or Geelong's Hutchison.
Yeah.
So that's the issue that's been my concern for them all year, and I think that's going to be highlighted over the next month.
They just can't afford to lose second spot, because suddenly they're travelling to Brisbane in week 1 of the finals. That affects your premiership chances.
Brisbane losing on the weekend did them a massive favour.